Hi everyone, so the topic of my IRP would be residents' perceptions on adaptive reuse of HDB multi-story car parks for community use. Yeah, the title is quite long now, so probably shorten it in the future. So on my research background, so the headline at the top says a huge opportunity for space. What going car light means for Singapore's 1.4 million parking lots. So this is a recent article by Channel News Asia on 13 March only. So basically, the government's push for car society as well as the rise of ride hailing will actually lead to a gradual decrease in the utilization of car parks. So the popular refrain from the government of land scarcity and hence land optimization means that multi-story car parks within HDB estates actually present a significant opportunity for adaptive reuse. To put into context, there's currently about over 1,000 multi-story car parks under HDB's management, and 800, about 800 of them actually have free parking on Sundays and public holidays, which may be an indication of underutilization. So there's huge potential for adaptive reuse for multi-story car parks. So uh, the idea of adaptive reuse for multi-story car parks has gained traction in the last few years. So recently there have been tenders for HDB car park rooftops for urban farming. The picture you see on the left is actually the pilot urban farming rooftop in Ang Mo Kio. So as well as during COVID-19, some car parks have actually been converted as temporary accommodations for migrant workers. Recently, in a session of Parliament, MP James Lim also suggested the adaptive reuse of HDB's multi-story car parks for commercial uses. However, the idea of conversion of such multi-story car park space for the community for community use has not been publicly announced or mooted yet by the government. So for the purpose of this research, community space is already defined as spaces that encourage social interaction and community bonding, such as playgrounds, fitness corners, or community gardens, things that you often see within HDB estates, but usually on the ground floor. So with the increased likelihood of people working from home and a growing population, such multi-story car parks are actually an opportunity to create more community spaces without actually taking up more land. So there's actually a saving of resources. Um, However, as this is a relatively new concept, so the purpose of this study is really to gain a sense of residents' perceptions on the adaptive reuse of multi-story car parks uh, for community use, which actually benefit policymakers in the future in terms of their decision making and design process. So from the research angle, looking at it really from the um, looking at the I've looked at it at the existing literature in terms of adaptive reuse. So I think for adaptive reuse, the definition would probably be the conversion of a building to undertake a modified change of use required by new or existing owners. And how is it important is that adaptive reuse actually supports the key concepts of sustainability by actually lowering material, transport, and energy consumption as well as pollution. So in terms of the gaps in the literature, I found that most of the literature has focused on the design and technical issues. So for example, coming up with frameworks to determine the technical suitability of adaptive reuse, as well as the evaluation of past projects. So there's another gap is that in terms of adaptive reuse of multi-story car parks, past examples have often revolved around residential, office, or other commercial users. So there's very little examples of adaptive reuse into community spaces. So the picture you see on the left is actually probably the one that comes closest to community use. So this is the Peckham levels in London, which is basically a, com a converted multi-story car park, which has been converted into art studios, office spaces, some F&B, but they do have open open spaces for public to just sit down. Yeah. So to summarize, basically there is this gap in the literature which is concerning users input, uh, either pre or post implementation. So there seems to be lack of study in terms of how the users actually perceive such uh, either potential ideas or perceive such developments after it has been implemented. So in terms of the research question, using the borrowing the format from the previous lecture, so the topic would be adaptive reuse of multi-story car parks. The problem would be the need to get residents' inputs to inform future policy making and design. The statement would actually be to understand HDB's residents' thoughts and concerns regarding adaptive reuse of their multi-story car park, and then after that narrowing it down to their perceptions uh, with regards to community use. So in terms of the research design, I'm looking at convergent parallel mixed methods, which basically doing both quantitative and qualitative methods concurrently at the same time. So how I do my study will actually be doing a case study of the multi-story car park at basically the estate which I live in, Bendemeer Light, and it's actually focused on the 7th floor parking deck. The reason why I do this is because, as you can see from the picture, the rooftop already has a so-called community space which was actually provided for straight from the beginning. So it's not something that was actually done after the car park was implemented. In addition, I think that this so-called green space is not very well used by residents because most of it is just green space has which serves no other purpose. Yeah. So in terms of the sample population, basically with the residents within the estate, which is about roughly around 1,900 pax residents. Uh, so in terms of the quantitative methodology, looking at doing a survey of residents for both drivers and non-drivers in terms of their receptiveness to using the multi-story car park as a community space, ideas on type of users and concerns that they might have, for example, safety concerns. So as the idea of this adaptive reuse may be an unfamiliar concept for them because it hasn't been done yet in Singapore. So I will actually set some context by providing some ideas on the kinds of community users that can be included at the start of the survey. In terms, random sampling will be conducted, but we will try to get an even split of drivers and non-drivers. The survey will be done online, and outreach will actually be done via residents' online channels such as WhatsApp and Facebook groups. In terms of reaching out to less tech-savvy residents such as the elderly, hope to actually enlist the help of family members to help them to actually complete the survey. So the other part, which is the qualitative methodology, I'm currently undecided but leaning towards doing a focus group discussion. Uh, Basically, the point of the qualitative methodology really is to delve deeper into the sentiments of residents uh, on this idea of adaptive reuse. Uh, I think because for the survey, I had to keep it rather short, probably within something that can be done within 10 minutes. So it won't allow me. So by doing this focus group, I hope to actually derive deeper insights. Yeah, and also I hope to actually observe and note down the interactions between the drivers and non-drivers. So the focus group also have to be done online. Yeah, so probably a sample question would be, are you supportive of converting the deck into community space? What are your reasons? So the reason why I am undecided whether to do focus group is because in terms of because I have to do it online, so it might not actually encourage participants to open up. Yeah. So Yeah, so for potential challenges, as alluded to earlier, as the research is restricted to online channel, there might be difficulties reaching out to certain demographic groups that are less tech savvy, such as the elderly. And finally, as a sample population actually resides in the BTO estate which was only completed recently, the demographics of residents are generally skewed towards young working adults and families. Hence, the results may not be as relevant in mature estates. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comments.